Frontline responder tests positive for COVID-19. New SOE orders in place. And Enga imposes blanket ban on betel nut.
This is the National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Thursday's news. A frontline responder attached with the Joint Agency Task Force has tested positive for COVID-19. The person has since been isolated and quarantined. SOE controller David Manning says contact tracing has begun, including places visited and persons contacted. This is the third positive case in the country.
The National Operations Centre on NOC-19 and the Prime Minister's office were locked down as of 10 a.m. this morning after reports that a frontline responder had tested positive. Both entrances into the premises were blocked off, with staff and visitors ordered to remain inside while police manned the gates to both buildings. Government staff in the two office buildings reported that they were given consent forms to fill in preparation for COVID-19 testing. Senior police officers also present during the morning briefings were also referred to be tested at the Rita Flynn courts, where isolation facilities have been set up. An official statement released just after 3 p.m. by SOE controller David Manning said the person has been isolated and quarantined and contact tracing has begun. This will include the places the person visited and the people contacted. Controller David Manning has called on the people of NCD Central and Papua New Guinea to remain calm. He says all measures are now being taken into consideration. Initially, an official statement had been released by Prime Minister or the National Department of Health. Then an internal memo from the SOE controller was leaked on Facebook and circulated on WhatsApp. The NOC-19 is where daily briefings are held and conferences are broadcast live. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
The Road Traffic Authority warns PMV operators to comply with Order 09 outlined by SOE controller David Manning. RTA Chief Executive Officer Nelson Terema says social distancing and proper hygiene must be practiced. For Port Moresby, nearly 2,000 taxis and PMVs are servicing the city.
With PMVs given the green light to operate, operators in the city have commenced on a slow note. Speaking to EMTV News, RTA Chief Executive Nelson Terema says its enforcement unit will be on the road monitoring compliance. Terema says agencies in the transport sector are already at work.
There's no exemption. All public transports will be bearing the vehicle pass, and they will be conducting their normal business. And we will be, our enforcement unit and police, making sure that they comply with all those specific directions outlined in the Operation Order number 9.
Under Order number 9, PMV buses are said to carry 15 passengers, while taxis too. While some PMVs are observing, others have been reluctant. Terema says its enforcement teams will arrest those and will be charged under the SOE laws. A workshop is underway for all PMV operators to achieve the goal of practicing social distancing, use of sanitizers and PPEs.
Now facilitating the training, bringing the drivers, crews and operators to go for a training, and that message has to be relayed to them so that they have to follow, especially emphasizing on the social spacing.
For Port Moresby, there are 1,680 taxi services, while PMVs are 1,500. 2/3 of those are registered. The RTA CEO says special passes will be issued. Terema also urged the public to comply with the SOE orders.
We all have to, work together as partners, and what sort of order given by the SOE commander, we all have to work together to making sure that it is implemented, especially in providing the public transport, and how we will be looking after ourselves and also the passengers who will be using the public transport during the next 2 months.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Police roadblocks along the Magi and Hiritano highways will remain enforced as per government directives under the state of emergency. Central Provincial Police Commander Tap Opai said so far the two highways have remained relatively quiet, with police patrolling the highways.
The provincial police commander spoke following allegations on social media that police officers at roadblocks issued passes to non-centrals travelling in and out of the province. The PPC said these allegations are not only defamatory but undermine the government's effort to contain the spread of the virus.
And I'm satisfied with the operation so far. The highways are relatively quiet at this time, indicating that our people from the central province are adhering to the government's directive on social distancing.
According to the PPC, roadblocks are being set up on various parts of the highways. For Magi Highway, there are roadblocks at Bautama and Kupiano, while Hiritano Highway has roadblocks at Laloki, Siama and Age Vairu in Kairuku-Hiri district. And with police patrolling the highway, it is difficult for Buai smugglers to smuggle Buai into the city. This has also enabled police to arrest few police officers involved in smuggling betel nut.
I can assure you that our two main highways are bustling with police patrols from different sections within the central command. And the good thing is every member of the constabulary is checking on each other's activities.
So far, both highways have remained relatively quiet during this state of emergency period. However, there have also been allegations of police abuse along these roadblocks on social media.
Involved in betel nut smuggling into the city from central province, and other allegations of police personnel confiscating those items or betel nuts from other smugglers and reselling them in our police barracks in the city.
The PPC said police on roadblocks are also looking out for themselves, and they are working together with Internal Investigation Unit to have officers at roadblocks to monitor police misconduct. PPC Opai further appealed to all victims of police abuse to report these matters to his office so that they can be dealt with.
We also are doing so much, but we also need the help of the public in tackling such issues and abuses. At this point, I'm encouraging all the victims to come forward and report the matter to me in my office at Gorans.
Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
State of Emergency Controller David Manning has announced new SOE orders for NCD, Central and Western provinces. This follows reports of suspected persons testing positive for COVID-19 in these provinces. The new state of emergency orders include police curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and all forms of public gatherings prohibited, among others.
These new emergency orders apply to Western Province, Central and National Capital District. Provinces officially confirmed to have a positive COVID-19 case. The new SOE orders state that no persons are allowed outside their homes between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. daily unless there is an emergency. All forms of public gatherings are also prohibited, and customary gatherings are limited to less than 4 people. However, markets and supermarkets, hotels, seaports, airports, banks, pharmacies and healthcare providers will remain open. Restaurants are also allowed to remain open but will only serve takeaways. Gambling activities, nightclubs, sporting and religious activities have also been advised to close for the duration of the state of emergency period, and public consumption and sale of alcohol is also prohibited. All forms of public transport, including taxi services, have also been stopped. Domestic flights within the country have also been prohibited. However, exceptions will be made for flights with a written approval from the emergency controller. The new SOE orders also provides for all markets in Central and Western Province to remain open. Markets in NCD to remain open include Taikone Market, 9 Mile Market, Gerehu Market, Waigeni Market, Koki Market and Koki Fish Market. Roadside markets in NCD are also allowed to remain open but with no more than 4 people in a stall. All citizens are also advised to adhere to social distancing requirements and safe hygiene practices. These new emergency orders are in effect until April 30th. Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
Eating the right food necessary for health and growth remains a topic now widely discussed along with hygiene practices during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet, as the country dubbed rich in nutrients from the organic fresh produce, malnutrition remains high, according to UNICEF PNG.
Speaking on MTV's COVID-19 awareness program, the nutritionist spoke of the importance of eating healthy whilst pregnant. This, she says, was important for early stages of human development and growth.
Infant and young child feeding practices. where from birth to 6 months, and baby must breastfeed tassel. Breastfeeding is very, very important.
While this advice has been overlooked by many, the outcomes have been visible in the malnutrition rates in the country, mostly common in children.
So you must look you at long market. Now some time you like go quick time long of some high block or corn or this or healthy too much low body you so suppose you need look you must call a market now because I think market or garden can give more body needing land.
The breakdown in fundamentals of eating healthy after conception, breastfeeding at birth, and a good balanced diet contribute to the weaker immune system. Nutritionist Margaret Rombuk emphasized the need to eat a balanced meal to help the body's growth and fight against infections such as COVID-19.
We have different types of food groups we can discuss, and one is the energy or carbohydrates. That's one type of food group. And then we look at protein, and then we look at protective, which contains vitamins and minerals. So these are the key elements or minerals that can support our body to keep our body healthy and strong.
Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
Still to come on National EMTV News, aviation company held for smuggling betel nut bags into Mount Hagen, and Sir Peter Bata donates cartons of soap for villagers in Midang. Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. Enga Provincial Assembly has put an indefinite blanket ban on the sale of betel nut in the province. This is a preventative measure the Provincial Assembly has undertaken to safeguard its people from passing or contracting COVID-19, as well as other sicknesses such as oral cancer. Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipatas says this is a tough decision to make, but it is good for the health of his people.
The penalty for breaking this new provincial law includes 5,000 kina sport fine for individuals that are transporting and selling betel nut. Vehicles transporting betel nut into the province will pay a fine of 10,000 kina. This means that there is a blanket ban on the sale of betel nut for an indefinite period to do away with the nut.
Looking to sick in an oblong by Mipla winning, strong blow Mipla no got scientists, no got doctor in a blong, working Marsen.
The substitute for betel nut buyers and sellers who will be financially affected is a 1 million kina funding from Enga provincial government. This money will be made available at the National Development Bank for locals to have access to buy agricultural products such as fertilizers to start farming. Governor Ipata said EPG would continue to fund people who are taking agriculture seriously. He urged the people of Enga to be thankful for having a market in place at Talum Surunki Agro Farm to sell the fresh produces. Some locals have already agreed with the stimulus package the provincial government will continue to offer to support agriculture in the province.
National government, this la provincial government, all passing talk long, losing boy step down, and me lucky nothing through. Boy must bend. Now people must go to garden, agriculture, now planning cacao. People also not been a work stop here. You must be in Mr. Talk say now.
Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Meanwhile, in Western Highlands Province, a local aviation company based in Mount Hagen was caught smuggling tons of betel nut bags into the province on Tuesday. The betel nut bags were confiscated and later destroyed after the National Airports Corporation notified police and the Provincial COVID-19 Task Force Committee. Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector Jacob Kamiak said police are investigating the incident.
The only passenger on board with the bags of betel nut was the captain. Police say the 18 bags of betel nut were transported from Ramo in Medang province. The betel nut bags owner would make a whopping 60,000 kina if he had to sell them during the state of emergency when there is betel nut ban.
So
our effort is to prevent the epidemic and the disease to spread throughout the nation and as well as in the province.
PPC Jacob Kamiak said the aviation company has breached the SOE order. The betel nut bags were confiscated and destroyed by NAC and police, and effort and money wasted by the owner to transport it to be later destroyed.
Ignorance of law is not an excuse for a citizen of this country or a business or a company, because the law is there.
Mount Hagen police have also arrested and locked up people transporting betel nut up to Mount Hagen. A stern warning was already issued by the Provincial COVID-19 Committee that they will do all they can to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in the province. Yet, people are not following SOE orders and cooperating to fight this pandemic. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Sir Peter Bata, through the Melanesian Foundation, has donated 100 cartons of soap to Mum COVID Awareness Group to distribute to designated villages. The cartons of soap were presented to the volunteer group to distribute to selected villages they went in to carry out awareness on COVID-19. Sir Peter Bata says the foundation is ready to supply more cartons of soap to the group to be more practical with their awareness to the people.
MUM is a volunteer group formed by people with various professional backgrounds, contributing their talents and skills in helping conduct awareness on COVID-19 in Madang. They are working with other NGO groups and organizations, including Madang Red Cross, to train workers and contribute information materials. This will go into the information kit developed by the Provincial Authority Communications team. Sir Peter said the main idea is to promote safe hygiene and regular washing of hands.
Coronavirus being established in the urban area, I don't think that's the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem we have with coronavirus is if it gets outside the urban area into a village. That's when we can expect to have problems, because he's going to go back into the village and they're not going to know about it until it's infected maybe hundreds of other people.
Sir Peter Bata has also assisted the group with painting materials to create several awareness posters in and around Madang. Spokesperson Robert Banasi says the soap was distributed to Kranget, Bilia, Bilbil, CR, Yabob and the Sipik settlements.
Maybe the soap is a good reason for people to listen to the preventive ways, and that's why I suggest that Robert Banasi, as he's handing out his signage, he can also hand out soap to make it a bit more meaningful. If necessary, I'll buy another 100 cartons of soap. I hope that other people buy 20 cartons or 50 cartons.
Another awareness group with the initiative from Ramu Nico Company in Madang are also assisting with awareness along the Madang-Ramu Highway. Yesterday, the group visited villages along the road disseminating informative information to locals along the stretch of the highway.
It's like basic health rule, huh? Yes. Imi away lo, aulo, avoid him bacteria lo affecting body bleeding. Some problems are bad. Question why me base long em. If me got this virus, how by health officers bakamna risk miximina try help me lo some the road where me can alright.
However, more awareness is still needed to educate our people, especially out in the remote locations. The Provincial Health Authority, through the support of the Madang Chamber of Commerce, has purchased 50 non-contact thermometers for frontline agencies to use. Sampling and testing will start today. The technical team, however, is yet to organize training for health officers. Mathalois, National EMTV News, Madang.
Women from various villages of Nawai district said they have a surplus of fresh produce that can help sustain the population of Leh during the extension of the SOE. However, getting the produce to Leh is difficult. They have been travelling down to Leh on PMVs and have been selling their produce at Ahi's Butibam village in Leh after the 14-day lockdown was uplifted. Meanwhile, Leh market has been reopened following the lockdown.
Grace Kiwawa is a primary school teacher and a subsistence farmer from Bukawa area of Labuta LLG in the Nawai district, Morbe. After the 14 days lockdown, Grace and other women from Nawai have been traveling to the Butibam village in Ley to sell their fresh produce to the residents of Butibam and Ley. The primary school teachers said the land in the Bukawa area of Labuta LLG is rich and they can supply food to Ley.
We live on garden foods. We plant a lot of bananas, cowcows, tapiocs, and kumus like pit, ibicas, everything that you can name it. We are rich, our land is blessed. It is a rich land, we plant a lot of things.
During the 14-day lockdown in the country and the extension of the SOE, it is now clear that food security has been the center of attention for many households and families.
Keke long wine, na keke long bukawa, na long mosom, oba problem keke kam, long butibam, long halfway mi plus stream. Long front, long store, you got beef like space, but me fly baim keke on this lahab.
Social distancing, and one plahab where in a block siki can kalab lo one plan arab like okam, na me plan up lo monitor him so that me look saver long. All my come and produce blow lo salim, na me plan man lo go baim, me must got sample control measures too long. Time me play bungo market. So this play way me play can halve him too long. All you come, all the salim really kake blow lo time. Now all can buy one something blow lo store. All can go back lo plus blow long time too.
Background name only give toko right one time council of chiefs long place. Only amamas lo this la. So this la market come up and help him online long blame me lo antap too lo come na salim all one me lo online lo yimi lo city.
Morbe is one of the provinces in the country with 9 districts that supply fresh produce to Ley market for the general public. With the SOE extension, Ley residents are able to buy fresh produce from small markets at the residential areas, from roadside markets, and the Ley market that was reopened last week Tuesday.
We will remain open until we get direction otherwise from the state SOE controller. But if the sellers and the customers that come in maintain the order and control that we've got currently in place, I don't see any reason why we would be closing that market at any time in the near future.
The women from Nawai district said they are able to produce more fresh food and can supply to Ley and the country, but it's difficult to transport their produce down to Ley due to bad road conditions. They have raised their concern to responsible authorities to help provide them markets.
We have a lot of rivers. When it floods, we don't come to town. We don't sell our produce because of the flooding rivers. The PMV drivers and the owners do not let their trucks carry us during the flooding times. That's why we don't flood the market at those times with the garden foods. So if we have, this is a call to the government, if we have good roads and bridges, we can supply Ley City and even the country.
Julie Badui, OA, National EMTV News, Ley.
To other news, work on landing the fibre optic cable in the country is progressing well despite the state of emergency and the lockdown of provinces. While working under guidelines and orders of the SOE, PNG Dataco has successfully laid the cable in Medang and will now move into the NGI provinces.
The Kumul Submarine Cable Network, or KCSN, is on track to be completed by May this year after successful landings in Vanimo, Wewak, Lorengau and Medang. While the Medang landing was held behind closed doors due to the state of emergency, Medang is now connected with the NGI provinces to follow soon.
And in Medang we will do the similar setup where we've landed in Lorengau, and you can see we will run the cable in, test it and connect Medang up. Out of Medang cable landing station we will then run the New Guinea Islands feed. That is to run all the way to Kimbe. We will do the same as we did in running the Lorenga one, the Manus one from Wewak. We hang it up in the middle of the ocean on Buai and run this end backwards. We'll do the same up in Kimbe when we get there. And then we'll do the same backwards. We'll go all the way to Kokopo. After Kokopo, we will run to Arawa. And so all the provincial setups, we have all the cable landing stations installed, all the equipment readily installed to receive the cables as we land.
With discussions and debate on social media regarding effects of the 5G mobile technology, Datacor Managing Director Paul Comboy gave a clarification on where Datacor comes into this debate, saying the company is not responsible for mobile networks. Rather, it provides the internet gateway for service providers like Telecom or Digicel to redistribute to its customers. Meanwhile, the cable landing ship is en route to West New Britain, and once the ban on entering the province is lifted, Kimbe will be the next provincial capital to be connected by fiber optics. Stanley Ove Jr., National EMTV News.
And now looking at the NASFund market report, the Kina opened unchanged at $0.291 in the interbank markets. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina will buy 0.4465 Australian dollars, 0.2835 dollars, 0.4716 New Zealand dollars and 29.82 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold was trading higher, coffee closed higher, cocoa and copra closed lower, palm oil closed lower, crude oil is trading higher and copper closed the day higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed lower, the All Ordinaries is trading lower and the ASX 200 is trading lower. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more stories on the global pandemic making headlines overseas when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. In the past 8 weeks, the Sir Brian Bell Foundation and the Brian Bell Group have been taking a health and education program through advertising and social media campaigns on the coronavirus pandemic. The information provided has focused on key messages on how to limit the spread of COVID-19, how to avoid contracting the virus, and what to do if you exhibit symptoms. All this information is provided in the 2 daily newspapers and on the Brian Bell social media page.
Beyond this vital information, Brian Bell Group Chief Executive Officer Cameron McElla says the Brian Bell Group and the Sir Brian Bell Foundation have activated additional support, including medical supplies, essential products for emergency operations, and funding support. Mr. McElla says these have been provided to the St. John's Ambulance Services, the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary, the State of Emergency Operation, Port Moresby General Hospital, and the Mount Again Hospital. He says the list will continue to grow to allow essential frontline services to deliver important assistance as required if COVID-19 spreads across PNG.
In addition to that social media campaigning and education through press ads, of course there are other things that the Brian Bell Foundation has undertaken, and importantly they relate to the supply of medical provisions and other essential products and items, as well as helping with the funding of a number of organisations. And all of that is undertaken in order to ensure that those vital services get to help those in need throughout Papua New Guinea.
The CEO says, as a company, their main priority was to invest into providing a safer working environment for their 1,200 employees. He says Brian Bell has continued to support its employees during this time.
Our business has been affected, as every business in Papua New Guinea has been. When the PMV stopped running, obviously we had reduced traffic in all of our stores and locations, and as a consequence we've had to reduce our team member levels in every operation. And in fact, over the past 3 weeks we've seen about 50% of our team members go on paid leave for that period of time. We're very fortunate to have now brought most of our team members back, and they're enjoying obviously being part of our business going forward.
Mr. McElla also said most of their promotions, like Mother's Day special draw, will not be made this year, but plans are in place to move most of their draws and sales to Christmas. Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas, U.S. officials are looking into a widely held conspiracy theory that the coronavirus was created in a Chinese lab and not in a wet market in Wuhan and was accidentally released. There have been concerns over the safety and management of that lab, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. There are also reports that Chinese government documents show a timeline between when Beijing became aware of the threat caused by the virus and when the public was warned.
The internal documents acquired by the Associated Press suggest that China's top officials knew the potential severity of the virus, but for 6 days held off on sounding the alarm to the public. The AP report is based on what they characterize as a leaked memo from a confidential teleconference involving the head of China's National Health Commission. CNN has gone through the government's public release of that teleconference, which highlights the worries expressed by health officials to other leaders. Now, here's what we know of what China knew and when. Going back to December 8th, the Wuhan government disclosed the first patient symptoms of the then unknown virus. Nearly a month later, on January 3rd, Wuhan health officials stressed there is no obvious human-to-human transmission. And on that same day, China notified the U.S. of the virus. On January 7th, President Xi Jinping's first public awareness is made known, and he ordered actions to be taken. A week after that, on January 14th, that's the teleconference, and that's when, according to a government release, which came out more than a month after the conference, there was a sober understanding of the situation that was made known to top government officials. And they added that, quote, clustered cases suggest that human-to-human transmission is possible. But here's the concern. Publicly, as late as January 19th, the Wuhan Health Commission said that the outbreak was controllable and preventable and not contagious. The next day, a very different narrative. Leading health officials acknowledged that cases of human-to-human transmission, and even they stressed that medical personnel had gotten infected. 3 days later, Wuhan went on lockdown. Now, in response to past questions over transparency, China has repeatedly maintained that they have been open and forthcoming in their handling of this outbreak. CNN has reached out to the National Health Commission for their comment on this latest reporting.
Globally, there are now over 2 million confirmed cases of COVID-19. More than 500,000 have recovered, while the death toll around the world is 137,078. In the United States alone, there are over 600,000 cases. 52,629 have recovered, while the death toll is 28,579. New restrictions are in place in many states in America, which include cancellation of concerts and sporting events.
The iconic Hollywood Bowl will remain empty this year.
It's difficult to imagine us getting together in the thousands anytime soon. We've got many, many miles to walk before we're going to be back in those environments.
The mayors of Los Angeles and New York suggesting concerts and sporting events likely won't return before 2021.
We got one chance. If we move too quick, we put 50,000 people in Yankee Stadium, and that's part of why you see a resurgence of the disease. That would be the worst of all worlds.
The mayor of New Orleans also recommending her city shelve major events like Jazz Fest until next year. As the president continues to push for a symbolic May 1st reopening, officials around the country are trying to adjust expectations.
We also know that we're in this for the long haul. The virus isn't going to disappear or go away anytime soon.
I say, personal opinion, it's over when we have a vaccine. It's over when people know I'm 100% safe and I don't have to worry about this.
That vaccine likely at least a year away.
We're going to have another battle with it, up front and aggressively next winter. This is why it's so important we take the time now to really improve our testing capacity, expand our public health capacity to do early case recognition, contact tracing, isolation. I call it block and tackle, block and tackle.
San Francisco is launching a partnership to tackle contact tracing. Los Angeles now offering same or next day testing to its 10 million residents. Anyone with COVID symptoms is eligible. In New Jersey, the nation's first saliva testing site is now open. Major League Baseball pitching in for antibody testing. Players, their families, concession workers, some 10,000 volunteers in total, part of a nationwide study to better understand the infection and its spread. As Georgia prepares for a potential surge, Michigan's strict stay-home orders brought protesters out in Lansing. New York and Connecticut announced new regulations for face coverings. And in Massachusetts, which is now in the surge, the governor emotional, talking about the 957 lives lost in his state.
I pay attention to the numbers, but what I really think about mostly are the stories and the people who are behind the stories.
The story of Gregory Hodge, an EMT in New York, just one example of the many lives stopped short. The 24-year veteran of the FDNY assisted at the World Trade Center after 9/11. He died as a result of COVID-19. Gregory Hodge was 59 years old.
In the slums of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, poor sanitation and overcrowding means once the coronavirus takes hold, it could spread like wildfire.
Chaos in Nairobi's largest slum, Kibera, as scores of residents desperately rush for food donations. Coronavirus restrictions means Kibera's breadwinners are not earning, swelling the ranks of the unemployed. As Kenya's lockdown continues, these are now common scenes. Late last week, a food donation caused a stampede. Some of Kibera's residents are afraid.
You can see by yourself. You can see how the line is too long. People are not distancing. No sanitization going on. No water to wash hands. You can see no water to wash hand around. We even fear for our life. Even mothers carrying children, you can see. Oh, this one is too much on us. This one is too much. I think the world can see this. Oh my God, this is terrible.
That fear is felt across the African continent as countries impose lockdowns. Kenya has a dusk to dawn curfew to curb the outbreak. Here, the pandemic has exposed the vulnerability of millions, driving sub-Saharan Africa towards a first recession in 25 years, economists say. Kenya's infected numbers are still in the low hundreds. In most countries on the planet, not enough people are being tested as the numbers rise. And this is a country of over 50 million people. Hundreds of thousands of Nairobi's poorest citizens live in informal settlements in slums like Kibera and Mathare. The market, the bars are open as traders try to keep the slum economy moving. Community NGOs have donated much of the water and sanitizers being used on these streets. But will this alone stem the spread of the virus amongst the most vulnerable?
Social distance.
Kennedy Odede is the founder of the charity Shining Hope for Communities, SHOFCO. He says his NGO looks after people in 10 slums across Kenya. CNN caught up with him.
Social distancing to the toll. If you have a 2-bedroom house, 3-bedroom house, here they live in 10 by 10 room, 6 children. How will they do that? So it's going to be difficult. I think we just have to be prepared. It's going to be a disaster. Right now in this community, they don't care about corona killing them. They care about them dying from hunger.
With no mass testing, the fear here is palpable.
Chukai Sports is next. Here's Godwin at the sports desk.
Thanks, Helen. Now, Oceania Football revealed Solidarity Fund to help the code and our weightlifters waiting to get back home. Details after the break.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. The Oceania Football Confederation has developed a solidarity fund to support its 11 member associations, including PNGFA. The Solidarity Fund was started to support staff, volunteers, players, coaches, referees, and the football community in the Oceania region.
The Solidarity Fund will cover 4 areas, which includes food and hygiene packs, loss of income, medical allowances, and self-isolation costs. All member associations within OFC were forced to temporarily close, with many staff working from home. OFC staff are working from home, while the head office in New Zealand is closed. Each OFC member association will be eligible to apply for funding totaling 100,000 kina. PNG Football Association suspended all competitions and football activities for 2 weeks and further extended the suspension till June following the current stand taken by the government and with advice from the Office of the Executive Director of Papua New Guinea Sports Foundation. The OFC Solidarity Fund will also assist countries affected by the Category 5 Tropical Cyclone Harold during the pandemic. There is no set date to when football will return in the region, but OFC have been speaking regularly with various stakeholders throughout the game. Elijah Levet, National, EMTV Sports.
The Oceania Weightlifting Federation is waiting for the Papua New Guinea government to help bring back weightlifters Moria Baru and Dikatoa. Weightlifters from other countries training in New Caledonia have been repatriated by their respective countries in response to New Caledonia's COVID-19 restrictions. Baru and Toa have been training at the Weightlifting Institute in Noumea. National Weightlifting Federation are in talks with PNG Sports Foundation to liaise with the Foreign Affairs Department to bring the weightlifters home. And more stories after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. If top-level rugby continues to be disrupted, players will lose around 50% of the money set aside to pay them for the rest of the year. It's the harsh reality for some of the biggest sports stars as the professional game remains in lockdown and revenue dries up.
It feels like a lifetime ago since we witnessed scenes like this, but with no play comes limited pay. Union officials and the Rugby Players Association have tried to limit the damage.
It's a massively challenging time for everybody. Rugby and the rugby players are no different.
In negotiation for 3 weeks, including agents acting for players, those earning $50,000 plus have agreed to shave 15% off their base salaries for now, increasing to 30% by September should top-class rugby still be off. Bonuses like assembly fees and promotional payments are frozen, with the cuts pegging back $25 million for the rest of the year.
The bit that's been complex is making sure we get an equitable solution for everybody, and that's what's taken the time.
It's never perfect, these kind of scenarios, but I think the thing driving the players is that they wanted some certainty between now and the end of the year based on a worst-case scenario.
The initial 15% base figure might be misleading. A top-line All Black without bonuses and incentives could lose up to 40% of their salary. Could that equate to upwards of $200,000?
Absolutely.
The impact on lower-tier provincial wages is yet to be worked out as those players are paid by respective unions. The women's game remains largely untouched. The next major hurdle to work out, a restart with Super Rugby local derby games, or if later in the year, a pumped-up provincial competition featuring All Blacks, assuming all provincial setups survive.
Things are moving so quickly at the moment that any answer I gave to you about that in April, could have changed by May.
A drop to level 3 means very little for rugby with super teams still in lockdown at this stage. Either way, the country's biggest and richest sporting body is the latest to confirm player pay cuts to help save its future.
To cricket now, and White Ferns cricketer Katie Peckings is securing her future with the international cricket window shut. Peckings' role in the community has taken a whole new meaning.
Suiting up in a very different uniform. This is the new life for White Fern Katie Perkins.
To wear the fern on the cricket field was always my dream, but to be able to put this uniform on and go out there and serve the community as a whole, that means a lot to me.
The 31-year-old's been a stalwart in the Fern squad for the past 8 years, but she's now returned full-time to the police force, helping with their response to COVID-19.
With not much cricket on at the moment, it was a pretty easy decision.
As well as patrolling Auckland's Mangere streets, Perkins is also gunning towards the Women's World Cup, set to be held in New Zealand next year. With team trainings off limits, they're all holding each other accountable.
Because of work, I'm just checking in with sort of how I'm doing with my trainings as well, just letting them know what I've been up to, so at least they know I'm not slacking off.
So far, New Zealand cricket's been fortunate with the timing of the crisis. The only big hit's been postponing the Ferns tour Sri Lanka this month. But come February, NZ cricket's confident the world's best female cricketers will be competing on our soil.
Cricket is just a bit of a gift, and if I do get the opportunity to play at a World Cup next year, awesome. If it doesn't happen, well, that's life.
An all-rounder on the field and now clearly off it too.
You're watching National EMTV News. The weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecasts in the southern region. Mostly fine weather in Port Moresby and Alotau. Cloudy with a shower or two in Daru, Kerema and Popondetta. In the Mamasu region, mostly fine weather right across the region in Lae, Medang, Wewak and Whanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, cloudy morning, then mostly fine weather in Lorengau. Partly cloudy with afternoon showers developing in KVA. Mostly fine weather in Kokoporabao, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, cloudy with a shower or two in Mount Hagen. Fine, then showers in Goroka, Kondiawa, Mendi and Wabag.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And that's the way it is this Thursday, the 16th of April 2020. From the entire news team, pleasant viewing. Good night.